Hi, it's Filo. Welcome back. Today I'm going to tell you about the books I read in May, and we're going to set up my reading journal. These will be the last spreads in this vintage rose journal from Notebook Therapy, as it's getting way too thick and I just need a change. So first I finished Les Misérables by Victor Hugo, a classic of historical fiction published in 1862. Here we follow Jean Valjean, an escaped convict determined to put his criminal past behind him. But he's constantly chased by the police and put to the test by his own conscience. It's also about the few people he meets, good and bad. It's a story of injustice, endurance, and redemption. So it's very adventurous and also deeply spiritual at the same time. I read the unabridged version, which is 1632 pages long, in 2.5 months. So what is abridged? The historical context, the hard part. It's commonly thought that Hugo goes off on long tangents on various subjects, but in my opinion, they're not tangents, they are the book. Hugo has a clear goal to speak out against social injustices and call to the reader's commiseration and mercy. He tackles many issues: education, death penalty, the situation of women, war, politics, wealth inequality, the prison system, and human rights. And even more broadly, he talks about timeless subjects like morality, truth, faith, and law. He describes himself as a social observer and historian of his time, and he wanted his novels to affect history and social change, and they did. That's why it's a classic. So you need to understand that this is fiction and non-fiction. You will fly through the plot and the twists, you will devour the dilemmas, and you'll have to accept to be slowed down by the digressions he makes. He does this to remind you that the whole story is based on historical facts, to force you to stop and think about what that means. Reading those more tedious parts will make you understand a lot more about the story itself, and give so much more depth and strength to the characters. They are part of the novel, otherwise this would only be another story. A good one, but another story. It reminded me of Oliver Twist by Dickens, with greater details and depth, though Dickens is more fun in my opinion. But here, Hugo focuses especially on how we're always torn between the good and the bad we inherently have in our souls, and all the choices we make. In order to do that, he brings you inside the mind of a few psychologically complex and symbolic characters who are miserable in every possible way, and we see how those extremely lovable and extremely hateable characters survive in a cruel world and make life-changing decisions, and how their lives balance the thin line between light and darkness. It's the kind of story that sticks with you because it makes you face your own conscience, it teaches you a lot about yourself, and it forces you to think, who would you become in the face of misery? Hugo was also a poet, which you can definitely appreciate here in his lyrical writing. In fact, I read it all in a low voice because it's beautiful and poignant, not gore or traumatic, precisely because he wanted everybody to be able to read it. He wanted to show true misery to people and make them look at it straight in the eye and feel personally involved and responsible for changing that. So you never witness things that would make you want to look elsewhere, but the writing and the psychological depth are really powerful. Here you'll find a deep analysis of the human condition, you'll find your hell and your paradise. You'll never meet anyone better or anyone worse, and you'll probably meet yourself in those pages, who you are and who you could become. It's a big book with the biggest characters and a huge message. It's biblical. It's definitely unforgettable. You will aspire to be more like Jean Valjean, to recognize the Javert in you, to subjugate the Thénardier in you also, and you'll look inside your soul so that you can get better and help change society. Now, after 1600 pages read, I don't close that book to just put it on my shelves. I know I'll come back to it. And finally, I also wanted to give you a few tips because you may find it daunting or intimidating. So I'm French and I'm from Paris, and this takes place in Paris, but my culture is very limited. I never really learned history, but you don't need to know anything. Hugo will take care of that. He will bring history to you and make it a part of you and how you see the world. So even though it's a novel about its time, it's inevitable it will make you think about today's social problems. So it's not a light book. You need to take your time to read it and appreciate it. I recommend reading something else in parallel, something lighter. And remember, you put in the hard work to read it, but he wrote it in 17 years. It's also divided into 365 short chapters, so it's not a coincidence you could read one chapter a day during a year. But as I said before, you will want to fly through the more adventurous part of the plot. I also recommend you get one single volume and paperback. This one was so flappy, I just put it on my lap and I didn't have to hold it. So, tell me, what's the longest book you've ever read? I know there are a few I want to come to eventually, like Middlemarch, The Count of Monte Cristo, or East of Eden. And I couldn't finish War and Peace, so I guess I'll have to try again later. And to continue on the subject of the aftermath of the French Revolution, I also want to read A Tale of Two Cities by Dickens, but I've been advised to wait a bit for my little heart to heal before reading it. Apparently it's very sad. So I already have it on my shelves, but I'll wait a few months. So at the same time, I read lighter books, and this month I finished How to Solve Your Own Murder by Kristen Perrin. It's her adult debut, and it's a cozy mystery set in two timelines, so the mid-60s and present time. When Frances was young, a fortune teller predicted she was going to be murdered. She then spends her whole life investigating to try and avoid her murder, but eventually she does die. And in the present time, we follow Annie, Frances' great niece, who is investigating Frances' murder. So I enjoyed the village setting, the manor and secondary characters too, and the shorter chapters kept me flipping pages. I read it in 2 sittings. I loved the cozy town setting, full of secrets, the grey characters, the dual timeline, and the twist surprised me. The characters in this novel were all mostly likable, even though they're quite grey. So that was refreshing. It could have been a 5 stars, but I enjoyed more the first half than the second half of the book, and I think she tried to cover too much, and there were also a lot of suspects, but only the relevant ones. You don't get to know their whole family. Oh, and don't expect NCIS professionalism. It's more of a Miss Marple style, cozy, compulsive, and very carefree. They're so unprofessional handling proofs, you'll have to look past that. I really appreciated that there's no drama and there's just a hint at a possible romance, but it's really not developed and the story is fully centered on the plot. So I don't read a lot of mystery for now, but I don't think it's nothing very new or unique, but I really had a great time with it. So to me, it's a 3.5, maybe 4 stars. It's the first book in a series of companion novels, and I'm not especially dying to read the next one, but I really enjoyed myself, so I think I'll continue it. So I'm down for some mystery or thriller recommendations, also if you have some. And now a bit about the spreads. So in this video I'm using mostly papers and stickers from Journalsay. I link everything below anyway, as always. And you can use my discount code Filo on their website if you want. It's an affiliate, so I get a small commission and that helps me create more content for you. Here my camera overheated. My camera is my phone and it was very hot this day. So I didn't know that there's an automatic setting that gets into HDR automatically when the camera is too hot. But I think it's just this clip, so sorry for that. To write in my reading journal, I'm using this beautiful Foutain pen that was kindly sent to me by Ellington Pens. I'm hosting a giveaway with them on my Instagram, so check it out. You have until the 16th to participate. And this one is the Ivory Suede design with an extra fine nib. Just like with the Alpine Rose they sent me a few months ago, the writing is super smooth and the ink flows from the first second you use it. It's amazing. And I'm also an affiliate with Ellington Pens, so I also have a discount code for you if you're interested. Next, I read Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. It's a romance with literary fiction, and it's set in the same world as Part of Your World that I read in March. So in fact, initially I read Part of Your World because I heard so many people rave about Yours Truly, and I wanted to start with the first book in this series, and I did love Part of Your World, but take all the reasons why I loved Part of Your World and do the opposite, and you have Yours Truly. Cheesy, dramatic, very spicy, and non-stop miscommunication. I'm so sorry if you loved it, because it's my taste. The plot was so unrealistic. So we follow 2 doctors. She's getting divorced and her brother needs a kidney, and he just broke up with his girlfriend who is getting married to his brother, and he has anxiety. And my hope was that there was a pretty good representation of clinical anxiety, but I suffer from clinical anxiety and it gave me anxiety. Ironically enough, I'm laughing now, but I was not laughing then. And sometimes it also reads kind of like a manual on how to live with someone who has anxiety. So it's interesting, but not really fun, and it's not really a light read. Oh, and also organ donation seems like a mere formality. I'm so sorry if you loved Yours Truly. I think everybody does. I just think it was not for me. I was not in the right mindset for that. Also, this book is too long. The premise takes 130 pages, during which the main trope, I won't spoil anything here, but the main trope is very predictably cooking. And then the ending was just miscommunication over miscommunication and trauma over trauma. That was so tiring. I was not even rooting for them anymore. In the end, I gave it 2 stars for the writing, the humor, the anxiety representation, and some interesting thoughts on couples. Now, please somebody tell me, should I read just for the summer? Is it more like part of your world or yours truly? So now I'm 4 books behind my goal to reach 40 books in a year. Les Misérables was like 4 books, so it makes sense. But I'm ahead by around 300 pages. Anyway, tell me your thoughts and recommendations in the comments and leave me this emoji. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to help this channel grow. I'll see you in the next one, and until then, enjoy reading!